Today on the podcast, we talk about some big changes coming to the blog. Phase 1 is here. Hope you enjoy. What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special edition Misfit podcast. If you are here for Unprepared, the Misfit Project, or the Coaches podcast, you are sort of in the right place, but not at all. This is a Misfit Athletics programming podcast. I suggest you continue listening because we have some very big announcements within this podcast. But before we get started, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Pure Spectrum CBD. Head to purespectrumcbd.com and use the code word Misfit to save some dough on some of my favorite products, like the tincture, like the salves. Sherb has to use the salves fairly often because he's always sore.
I bathe in them.
He bathes in them. So yeah, purespectrumcbd.com. Use the code word Misfit.
Brush my teeth with them.
We're also
rubbing your gums?
brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. Head to sharpentheaxeco.com, and you know what? Use the code word unprepared because it's going to save you money, even though this isn't the Unprepared podcast.
Do it.
You know, by the time this is released, we'll probably, hopefully, maybe still have some joggers and some awesome t-shirts and this buzzsaw dad hat. We'll see. Use that code word unprepared. You save some dough. Okay. Team Misfit, SugarWOD.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Team Misfit affiliate programming is now on SugarWOD. So if your gym is either already following or is not yet, let's see what I did there, head to SugarWOD. We're on the marketplace. You can subscribe, get a free sample or a free 7-day trial. You can still get the programming on teammisfit.com if you're not on SugarWOD. If you are a current subscriber, and want to migrate your account over to SugarWOD, you should have some information in your inbox, or you can just reach out to us and we'll make sure that happens. Make it easier for you to get your athletes your program.
Beautiful. Word. All right. So you might have noticed that the name of this podcast is actually Phase 1 and not Cycle 1. We sort of felt like CrossFit upped the ante a little bit with the new sanctionals and no regionals and the open national champions, all these different things. And we needed to reevaluate the way that we programmed throughout the year. And we really felt like changing the name was sort of part of us putting a stamp on it and saying we've really done our homework here and due diligence and cell phone calls and whatever.
Unbelievable.
So we've done our due diligence, unlike Hunter with his silence button, and we are ready to talk to you guys about something that we've been working on for a long time that we're super, super, super excited about. So big picture, you now have phases throughout the season that lead you from right after the Open to the CrossFit Games. And they have sort of a similar structure to previous cycles. One of the biggest differences that you're going to notice right off the bat this first week of programming, is going to be the fact that there is one test per day in your test and retest weeks. There is not a full week. And one thing that Hunter and I tried to do with the Metcon specifically, when we get back around, is they are very similar. We do want to make sure that you notice this progress that you're making. But we didn't necessarily believe that there needed to be 2 to 3 retests every single day. And what that allows us to do is to really convey to you as an athlete, when you log in and you see test next to something, you're going to know that that's something that we're really going to spend time on specifically throughout the cycle. And that's how you can really start to understand what we're trying to accomplish here. One example to get us started would be the deadlift. Our big, robust, high CNS demand lift of this cycle is going to be the deadlift. So we're going to work up to a heavy single in retest or in test week, and then on the retest side, we're going to go to that 100% plus place. So that's kind of a good example of where that's at. I will use this opportunity to segue straight into the strength. I know people like to get specifics on the strength. We could sit here and talk about this stuff for, I don't even want to know. We do. Our programming meetings are they're long. We'll just say that. But the strength, very long. But the strength stuff specifically is something where people really want to know, what is it? Why are we doing it? All that good stuff. So it might take up a little bit more than the other categories, but I feel like people are okay with that. So we just talked about the deadlift. We're going to go through the cycle with some sort of our go-to deadlift touch and go plus a heavy single cycle. This cycle first appeared in 2015 games training, and it was just one of those things. We wrote the cycle, we put it out there, games athletes came back and said deadlifts never felt better. So we've slid that in. We really feel like that gives us an opportunity to both, say, hey, the heavy deadlifts can actually come out in the open. So like, let's work on, the sets of 6, the sets of 5, the sets of 4, what sets that a lot of people thought about in that 315 bar, but still have that high CNS demand and go for that heavy single as we get through that. We are going to spend a ton of time on strict press and bench press throughout this cycle. The old Russian saying, to press, you must press. All they were saying with that is not a huge return on investment here, but it's really important to have upper body strength.
Yes, they checked in at all times. You can't get away from it. You all know what it feels like to get away from it for a cycle, come back to it and go, whoa, I thought I was good at No, I'm not good at this anymore.
Right.
So
and you can do it. You can do the volume that we're asking and not feel like you're beating
It's the opposite of the deadlift.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
It's the exact opposite of the deadlift. So we are going to strict press twice a week. We are going to bench press twice a week. And as I'll get into here in a bit, we've added an entire accessory category. There's going to be more pressing in that. We're going to press all year long, especially within that accessory category. But we sort of have a higher rep, lower weight on one of them one day, and then see if I get it right, lower rep, higher weight on another day. Wow, I did it.
And they're both on the same day too, which is important kind of distinction, that you don't need to do them back to back. They're both going to live under the same kind of block, but we can definitely spread them out.
Do them back
probably
to back.
not.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people that have that muscle endurance that might be able to superset it, but then let's say there's muscle ups in the Metcon, you're in trouble at that point. People are going to be really surprised when they hear this. The only back squatting within this cycle is non-mandatory. We are trying to follow a progression throughout the year, and that really kind of over the top, high volume, Misfit volume back squat cycle is going to come in phase 2. So we're going to spend the time to try to clean up some of our squat mechanics while we're doing the deadlifting. But we have that non-mandatory one in there, that higher rep one, 10s and 8s and 6s, the kind of thing that will grow those tree trunks a little bit more. That is in there, non-mandatory. Moving on, for the Olympic lifts, we have 2 different things going on. We're going to work on touch and go. We're going to work on touch and go through the squat clean and the squat snatch. Again, really applicable to what we're trying to do here. We have to create a system through these phases where we are progressing and we're periodizing things throughout the season, and also really hitting a true GPP. I'm always ready. I'm ready for the filthy 150 all the way around to I'm ready for Asbury Park games, right? Yep. So they're just as important as one another, and they're on opposite ends of the year. Moving forward with that Olympic lifting, the really true GPP lift of the cycle is going to be the power clean and the power snatch. You're going to go through, you're going to do something along the lines of as many reps as you can get at 60% in 1 minute. And then each time we're going to go up in weight and we're going to go up in time. So you're going to get a little bit more time to do that. You've tested this.
I was just going to say that
handful of touch and go, like try to make it hurt a little bit, knowing that you're going to go straight to singles after that.
Yeah. For me, the skill of touch and go is not something I like to do. So spend the first set or first couple sets with touch and go, knowing that at some point we all need to have that impetus in our mind to say, all right, it's time to switch gears and go single, so I stay moving, so I don't spend 40 seconds of that 1 minute staring at the barbell because I did 2 10-second sets.
Yeah, like usually like this won't look unfamiliar to people who've done it in the past. It typically shows itself in like cycle 3, cycle 4 time frame. I like that we're doing it earlier in the season because it does, like you said, sure, gives you the opportunity to hone in on that barbell cycling and the skill of doing quick singles in a kind of a conditioning lifting setting early on, because you need both of those skills, and they are both skills. They're not just one is the default and one is the fallback plan.
Now, this isn't the only way to do this, but one thing I like to do when I was going through this was try to match my scores as the weight and time increased, which just made it competitive, which, we talk about trying to find little victories and look for things to do when you're doing pieces and what you can gain and learn from them. That's a perfect example. As the weight and time goes up, can you stay at a similar cadence to get a similar score?
Right.
And essentially do more work in a slightly longer period. But that's the challenge here. And I think that gives you an opportunity each week to go, all right, here's my numbers from week 1. On week 3, I'm going to do it again. Let's see if I can beat those numbers.
Right. In that macro view, we all know that there's a pretty good chance that we're going to ask for you to hit the same reps at a higher weight. So what you've done is that works for you, that linear progression works for you, and you've created it on a micro level. You've said to yourself, okay, I like the fact that I know I want to hit 17 reps. Even when we go up 10 pounds next time, I can probably create that exact same scenario today within this training session. My first one gives me info on my second one. My second one gives me info on my third one.
It just keeps you in check. I think that one thing that can happen is you see a strength program and you just blindly follow it and you don't really, glean anything from it. And this is an opportunity to go, all right, well, great. I know what my target is. I know that I'm going to be 45 seconds into that 90-second interval and go, all right, well, I have X amount left. I got to be tough. I have to do a rep every so often. And just a way of, giving you data points on your own training. So, I can do at 80%, I can do a rep every 5 seconds. At 85, I can do one every 7 seconds. It seems silly, but a lot of these things come directly into play when we go back to the open. We're like, hey, can you do a round of 20.2 every 43 seconds for an hour? Like, you have to know these type of things. It's just another data point.
Absolutely. And there's two ways to look at it. Both are important. There's strategy. We want to make sure that stimulus is actually there. If someone's not good at singles, but they all go to only singles and they don't get very many, then stimulus is gone, right? So strategy is important, but then there's also just what's the strategy you are employing to get yourself better at something.
To me, it's always like, all right, I'm not good at X. Let's attack that head on, but know that at some point that gear needs to switch. So like I said earlier, start with touch and go because I don't particularly like it. And then at that point where I'm no longer able to keep intensity, switch to singles. So you have
exactly.
that,
so it's almost make sure that you're getting that. Make sure you're getting your strategy out of the way at some point.
Correct.
But also hitting the stimulus by saying another set of touch and go. I mean, I'm gonna have to wait who knows how long to be able to pull that off.
Absolutely.
Switch over to singles, and then you get better at what you need to get better at, and you hit the stimulus that you want. Another surprise that people will probably have here until I throw the caveat out there is there will be mandatory front squatting in phase 1. I still stand behind the fact that if you have a good back squat and you don't have a good front squat, you don't know how to front squat.
Yeah,
I can attest to that.
I like communicating this with our affiliate athletes. I say like, hey, why is your back squat or why is your front squat not the same as your back squat? Everybody kind of like thinks about it for a second. It's like, well, it's the same movement basically, and the answer is because you're not in the right positions. You don't know how to do the lift correctly. And it is a skill. Your front squat is not the same as your back squat because you can't get into the same positions.
Right.
And obviously there's a little bit of physics in there, but you need to be those who are in a better position. Their front squat is a hell of a lot better.
Right. And there's skill transfer implications here. We know people that back squat in a way that could never lend to the Olympic lifts. Back squatting is not part of our sport, hardly ever. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. That can be an issue as well. Your squat pattern is just so much different than when you go to the front squat. Maybe you're not even using the same musculature to drive up through your legs, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. So that will be the surprise. The not surprise here is that it's pause front squats and tempo front squats.
Some of these are awful. You're under tension for so goddamn long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing though. If it goes by in a whirlwind, what did we learn?
Right.
So we're trying to make sure here that you are thinking about the way that you're moving the entire time. I mean, we will shoot some videos for you guys. We'll make sure that you know exactly how to do this. But with that front squat, we need the full grip on the bar so that we actually get tension in our thoracic spine. We need to learn to squat between our feet. You sit back, weight goes forward. It's not rocket science when it comes to that. So one of the things that you get with pause squats, with tempo squats, is you get immediate feedback. You become your coach immediately, whether you like it or not. You start to go down and things feel a little weird. You know that you have to drive the knees out more, push your hips through to squat between your feet. You're going to get that feedback immediately. And then hopefully, if you're the type of athlete that doesn't understand kind of that feedback, update your movement thing, it's going to be forced upon you here. Maybe you can think about it a little bit more.
I was just going to say, we often do the Olympic lifting at camp, and we talk about, hey, go sit down on the bottom of your front squat because we're warming up the clean, and people are like grumbling and moaning and groaning and not in good positions and going, this sucks. And we ask everybody, hey, how do you feel right now? Everyone's like, this is terrible. I want to stop doing this. And we just all it goes back to, well, guess what you need to do then? Do it more, because what you're talking about is just lack of experience. You haven't done it enough the right way to see what it feels like. So if you get down and you feel tight and things feel awkward, that's a telltale sign right now that it's probably your technique that's the issue and not that fact that you're not strong. You just don't know how to use your strength.
Right. Absolutely. I'm going to skip way ahead just to get this out of the way because it sort of lines up with the strength and also should be nothing like the strength. There will be a optional accessory almost every single day, 3 different things that you need to do, typically split up between some form of midline, upper body, lower body accessory. They line up well with the lifts. I write so much of this for remote clients that I felt like at a certain point, if I do that and I ask people, our other remote coaches to do that we need to start doing that for the masses. I am all about accessory work because I don't think as a community we're awesome at engaging some of our musculature that could keep us healthy, that could have us more efficient in a 1 rep max lift, gymnastics, whatever it needs to be. Please, if you're going to listen to anything in this entire podcast, listen to this portion. I really need you guys to think about the accessory work as learning how to use your musculature and not adding 3 extra lifts every single day. Okay. Yikes. That's going to fry your central nervous system. That is not what we're after here. We're after the fact that your body with connective tissue is essentially one muscle. Everything's connected. And we got to make sure that there aren't some like really weak gaps in there. We're going to build the midline. We're going to build the posterior chain. We're going to build, we're going to be doing curls to make sure the bicep is there. There's a lot of different stuff that we're doing here, and there's a purpose to all of it. And I want it to be thoughtful movement, but intensity of like
focus.
Intensity like assault bike intensity is not what we're after here. We're after slow, controlled movement, making sure that you're actually doing things right. And with that, there's going to be a shitload of scaling across our entire community. If it says V-ups 4x15, and we want to make sure that you're actually on the entire time. I personally cannot do that. And I do V-ups all the time. I'd be 4x10. And I would make sure that I was there. And then the next time it popped up, I would do 11 or 12 based on the notes that I wrote for myself after the first time. And you kind of move forward that way. So really try to look at it as I want to really learn how to use my lats. I want to learn how to use my posterior chain, whatever it is. And only add it in if it fits in your time frame, kind of all that stuff. But I think it's extremely important, but I think it's even more important that it's done right or not done at all.
Yeah, definitely. It should not add volume in a detractive way from your training.
Right. It should serve as, again, really bolstering that concept of connective tissue. Yep. Makes you all one piece and you can use it all together. Hunter's going to go over your kind of traditional metcons and intervals. What can be said about what we're doing that's a little bit different here? Obviously, couplets, triplets, rest in some, not rest in others, 21-15 nines and 30-20 tens.
If you're just going to jump in and do the workouts, nothing's going to pop out to you as like, holy, like, oh, wow, I see this is extremely unique. There are plenty of unique elements and hopefully some pieces that really make you think about how you want to attack them. But what we're instead going with is, like Drew said, instead of having a full test and retest week, we're just going to have a couple of test pieces throughout the week. Conditioning is certainly not immune to that. The test pieces that we have will be focused on kind of directly and indirectly throughout the cycle. So the best example I have, the first week, basically a pretty decent volume muscle up and dumbbell squat snatch workout. You're going to see in the skill work throughout the entire cycle, muscle up. We're going to ask you to do perfect sets of muscle ups. So we're going to give you all kinds of options to make these tests better. So we're kind of giving you the answers to the test, so that when you retake it, you can crush it. But
yeah, we're dropping you out in the desert, but then we're going to lead you home after.
Yeah, but you're going to be way out in the desert. Okay,
yeah, in the dark. It's going to be cold.
And then the other kind of interval test that I have here, I'm not going to steal Sherb's bitch work test because that's a gem. But the interval test is basically we're asking you to do kind of like a really short Metcon, rest for a really long time, and then do it again. Set yourself on fire, put it out, and then set yourself on fire again.
See if you can make the fire even bigger the second time.
I like this workout. The workout to me, it's on. Should I say it? No, it's on day 5. It's a recovery test disguised as an output test to me. We talk about it so much as far as being able to having that robust aerobic base, and all what that does is serves to facilitate your recovery between workouts, between training pieces. Can you get rid of the poison? And we're going to give you the poison, and we're going to see how well you can get rid of it. But then over the course of the cycle, between all of the conditioning and the bitch work pieces, the intervals and stuff like that, we're going to try to teach you how to recover, because ultimately, unless at the highest level, we're eking out small percentage points of top end output for most people. But what we can always do is shrink that recovery time down, and that translates huge in pretty much everything in CrossFit. The
shroud of secrecy here is not the fact that it's X, Y, and Z and it's the special formula. It's the fact that we have the bombest fucking names for workouts
that's
ever.
Mostly it.
We're not going to tell you yet. You're going to get to read them.
Some of the workouts say lifting test or whatever, but some of them are just your named workouts. So Drew is really, really excited about them.
Still so
excited. I'm excited about them. I just didn't come up with them. And then the last thing I'll say is we're gonna, this isn't really unique to this phase or even previous cycles, but there are going to be a lot of pieces where, like Drew said, we drop you into the desert and you have to figure it out. We're going to put, I really like putting the massive set of something in the middle of a workout, 50 overhead squats at like a moderate weight, like a 135, 95 or something like that. Something that you're not going to do unbroken. You're not going to do in 2 or 3 sets. Like, you need to figure out how you're going to tackle this and not ruin your entire workout. But it's not every workout's going to be an unbroken challenge for people. It's not going to be a max, absolute send workout every time. We're going to put you in very uncomfortable situations, and you need to figure out how you're going to handle that. And my comparison is always, or will be until there's a better one, is 20.5, the 33 thruster chest to bar pull up and going down like that. A lot of people didn't.
19.5?
19.5, sorry. What did I say?
We're stuck in 20.5.
We're at 25 now. 19.5, the thruster chest to bar, the one of the 30 of them.
Right.
But
yeah.
that volume, everybody's done thrusters and chest to bar pull ups. Everybody's done them in reasonable volume. But when you drop a set of 33 to open up a workout, that on its own isn't too bad, but when you have to go back and do 27
sparks and
like
smoke coming out of their ears.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this.
This is Fran, right? Yeah. Oh, sure it is.
Yeah,
good luck.
Do your first. Yeah, Fran's over after one set. So, that's pretty much it. So we've got the test and the kind of the answers to the test, so that you can go back once we get to week 7 and retest, hopefully crush your time. And we want you to. We're setting you up for success. There's already that element of when you go to retest something, you already know kind of what you're getting into. So you've got that known element. We want to amplify that by giving you not only the answers to the test, but like a way to absolutely fucking crush it. So
words on me now.
Bitch work. Yeah, send it, Sherby.
So
bitch work for the bitch.
We were talking about this this cycle.
Bitch work.
Drew was going around and asking us, what do we think is how would you guys like to frame your programming? Like, who should be doing what? And let's talk about like who has a gusto for certain parts of the training. And something that always really resonated with me was bitch work. You're doing something.
What's really awesome about this is you have turned into this. You didn't used to be this, but you're like the embodiment of like I wish that I couldn't have made the transformation. Like maybe I'm on my journey, but I'm nowhere near where you're at with this. So I think it's really cool that a lot of times people that gravitate towards something, I gravitate towards the strength a lot because I was already good at that and I liked it. Like you sucked at it.
Oh, yes.
And really put in the effort, which is truly the end goal of bitch work. So I interrupted you, but like the right person to be talking about this shit.
To give
the
you
direction
props
I was
for it.
going was, I don't consider myself super skilled in any of these movements, but like there's an element to bitch work where it's just how bad do you want it? And I really fucking love that part of it. Like all of these tests, all of these training pieces you're going to have over the entire cycle are going to give you opportunities to demonstrate not only to, the world in the open when you get a chance to do 21.1, but how much work you can put in and how much growth you can make in a year. And like you said, that was something I always grew up like believing in, like playing sports. Maybe I'm not the most gifted one, but give it the hardest work and reap the benefits of working really, really hard. Being willing to work harder than other people is a very admirable trait, and it will take you a long way. So you guys now have the same exact opportunity. There are going to be really two principal focuses over the course of this this phase. The first one is getting you good at anaerobic output on that rower, meaning can you fucking rip on that thing over and over and over again, and then rest and then do it again, then rest and do it again. So we have I won't give the name away because we're not giving away the names, but we have an excellent rowing test that I had the unfortunate happenstance to test. And because we didn't know exactly what it was going to be, I had to do the full thing, which was also terrible. But we look at our sport, we look at what you can get and what you can glean from going really, really hard in a rower. And we thought, what better place to start with phase one than going really, really hard in a machine that's going to give you a lot of adaptation.
Good news, it'll be over quick.
Yeah, good news.
I'm already done.
Yeah, good news. It can be over very fast.
I just did it right here.
All right, so the second focus is going to be going long. So one of the things that we've had an opportunity to experiment with over the last 18 months to 2 years is the benefit that people can get it from being on the C2 bike for extended periods of time. The ability to teach yourself how to flush waste while moving, and the ability to essentially stay training that aerobic system in a movement that doesn't really engage a lot of anaerobic tissue or a lot of that anaerobic feel. The C2 bike couldn't be a better one. So again, we have another...
Such a useful tool to enter the CrossFit community. We needed it so bad. We didn't have it in other places.
No.
I love it. I love it.
This is also a good time to say, we're not this part specifically. We're not sponsored by C2 or anything, but we always get what do we do on the assault bike instead? There are going to be most, if not all, of the bitch work pieces that call for a C2 bike. There is not an assault bike equivalent. So if you're if you've really taken this training seriously, you need to fucking go buy a bike. Yeah. It's an investment. It's not obviously not cheap for CrossFitters living on.
We don't get $1 off.
Yeah,
not even a penny.
I wish we would.
Yeah.
I want one.
So we have those two principal focus: the anaerobic on the rower and the aerobic on the C2 bike. But there's also one more additional thing that I put up for the big guys like myself who do not like running. A drill that a lot of you are going to find is 100% optional. It's not one of the mandatory pieces, but we're going to give you a biggest bang for your buck, something I'm doing myself, something I experimented with for about 6 months, which is learning how to pace running. We've often thrown out a 10K run as the run test for cycle one. And we were like, we see it. And then we see athletes who, might have a good 10K time, but they started a 7-minute mile and they limped home at a 10-minute mile. So one of the things that I really wanted to put out into this cycle was the opportunity to learn how to pace something, and the benefit of going a little bit easier at the start, the prescribed pacing cadence for your run, and allowing you to kind of gear up as you go over the course of that, teaching yourself how to pace and stay moving on a run test that's not going to be all that fun from a blanket statement. Look at it. Ooh, I'm going to run for that long. But what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself much easier able to stay at a pace that's comfortable to start and gradually go into your race pace. And again, we're looking to teach you how to run for long periods of time. So this is going to be what feels really easy at first. Stick to the pacing. The only other element I have to add to the bitch work for this cycle is you're going to see what we call mixed modality or CrossFit bitch work. So you're going to see things like burpees maxed with box jumps, or running maxed with wall balls, or double unders matched with, rowing. Yeah, the idea behind these things is to teach you how to switch gears between the two, but to see how one impacts the other. 20.5 is the perfect example. How do, rowing at a 1300 affect your ability to do 15 sets of wall balls, or vice versa? You have plenty of opportunity over the course of the cycle to figure out how these things play off each other and to figure out what is the best strategy to stay moving the entire time. And, as much as bitch work is about grunt work, there's a lot of data to be gleaned from this. So do not neglect the fact that when you're done, you might know how you broke up your muscle up sets. You should be thinking the same way when it comes down to what were my splits for the 15 calorie versus the 18 calorie on the rower. Like, you guys should know that type of stuff. So, collect as much data about yourself over the course of the cycle as you can.
Yeah, when I'm building the skeleton for these phases and I'm looking at what directions we're going in with certain things, you're like, your pet peeves sort of pop into your head a little bit as a coach. And again, your squat snatch is amazing, your muscle ups are amazing. You're not very good at box jumps and double unders and wall balls or like burpees. Like, that's frustrating.
Yep.
Because it's like it takes a lot of commitment and effort to get better at these skilled movements, and to think that you're not going to put it into the ones that are going to dictate a ton of your open, like huge portions of workouts at a sanctional or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's the cart before the horse. So that's just super important to me.
I mean, think like, just we're in the 20 point whatever open now. Like, think workout 1, a high volume of bar facing burpees. Like, it's not saying that you're not good at burpees. This is a burpee workout and I'm not good at it. Like,
that's your fault.
That's your fault. That's like, you can't glaze over these super simple movements because they don't have like a high skill, necessarily a skill element to it. You can inject the skill in order to be better at them,
right?
But it's not an excuse to be poor at them, especially when, like you said, I've got 15, 20 unbroken muscle ups, but fuck, a set of 20 burpees ruins my day.
Yeah, and if you guys want to peek behind the curtain, the best athletes that we work with are all in a text group, and they text each other about 3 times 30 bar facing burpees more than anything else, or the burpee box jump overs. And they're like, how the hell did you do those fast? They get it. They understand this sets the stage for every single thing that I'm going to do. Just one more thing on the bitch work. If you just went through our open cycle, I hope you did the fasted cardio, and this idea that you going through the fasted cardio and learning to flush on the rower will actually translate to this anaerobic rowing test is something that we're going to try to do throughout the whole year. So you're going to go long on a certain machine, a little bit more biased, and then in that next cycle, we're going to make you go short and hard on it, just to say, we promise this is going to work for you.
And you actually had me test this. I think unintentionally about a year ago, you had me doing a lot of fasted cardio on the C2 bike, and then randomly assault bike intervals popped up in class, and I was like, whatever. I've been working long and slow. How is that going to help me come there? And every single person is like, my legs. And I was like, I don't feel my legs at all. It's only my lungs, because I had taught myself how to flush waist while I was moving. And all of a sudden, everyone who's crapping out early on were like, I can't understand how you can keep doing this. And it's because I taught myself how to flush out that waist, like Hunter alluded to earlier.
Yeah, as a coach, we're not going to be impressed if you're fast twitch man or you're gigantic, right? Are you fast twitch and then fast twitch and this fast? That's when it's going to matter. So a lot of people out there in the CrossFit community that can close their eyes and know that they're going to end up crying 30 seconds later and put up a good number on the assault bike. What can you do after that? Yeah. Right? Like, that's not going to pop up as a test. It'd be sweet if it popped up as a test, but it's not going to pop up as a test. Moving on, we have something in here that might be named a little bit differently, but has been on the blog for a very long time, and that's just a skill column. We're taking things that we think people need to completely remove from intensity, and we're going to work on them in that category. Now, if you look at the skill work and you say to yourself, I'm going to be like thrashed after this, that's just another call to scale. Yep. And I am going to be scaling some of these things for CrossFit Games athletes, depending on what the skill is, so that we can create some momentum and follow like a linear progression.
It's definitely important to note that fact that you just said. There are Games athletes who scale this stuff. Don't think that you just need to check off a box and go, good job, I participated today. I think it's super important to acknowledge that, there are going to be things within the skill column that you might go, awesome, I love it, no problem. I can do those sets of toes to the bar all day. But then there's something comes up with a deficit handstand push-up and you're terrible with pressing, and, you try to do it and it takes you 17 hours and you leave there with a stiff neck. Like, you didn't do that right. Know that the skill stuff is there to help you get better at the skill. It's not conditioning.
Right.
Know that.
So what we hoped with this podcast is that you guys realize, as we're starting to talk, that when we used to say, okay, we are going to go long this cycle, and then we're going to go short in the next one. What we're doing now is we're going long and short, but we're biasing specific things. We're biasing specific lifts within specific categories. So the same things are going to happen throughout the course of the year. They're just going to happen simultaneously. And when it comes to something like a lift, of course, we can't ask you to do a volume deadlift and a volume back squat cycle at the same time. But throughout the year, you are going to have strong legs, strong upper body. That will translate, especially if you do some of the skill transfer stuff that we alluded to. Like, we are still doing the stuff that Misfits do.
Absolutely.
That stuff is still part of what we're doing. But when we go into this phase system, it becomes super important to understand that we need that heightened level of general physical preparedness 12 months out of the year.
Yeah, there's no more, we're not falling out of shape in cycle 1 in order to get super, super strong. Like, we're going to get you strong, but you need to be in shape as well. And that's just the reason that we went to this different format where you are in shape 12 months out of the year. We're no longer peaking for the open,
right.
Peaking for the CrossFit Games and to be ready for any sanctional that an athlete wants to go to.
Right. And I think that unequivocally, we were on the exact right path with the cycles previous when it comes to the mental benefits of changing things up. And this is the time of year where I don't do as much of X, Y, and Z. But what we get to find out now is, how do we create the most robust CrossFit athlete? Was it the more periodized type of thing? Or is it this heightened GPP 12 months out of the year? And even though cycles 1, 2, 3, and 4 are my fucking baby, the thing that I spent everything that I had learned up until I was 25 years old within the strength and conditioning community went into the skeleton of those. Like, I think we're going to create a more robust CrossFit athlete through, it's just, the mental side is the big thing, right? And like I said, CrossFit up the ante. We're following along. We're going to go with it.
I can't wait.
Yeah. I do want to talk Hatchet real quick.
Hatchet, let's go.
Yo. No, the only change to Hatchet, you're still going to get, you'll get a lift every day. We've adjusted them just a little bit to make sure we're not kind of overdoing it. You still get your 3 training pieces, but the biggest change that you're going to see is you're going to get target times now, target scores. So previously we would put time caps on there. The time cap was kind of the maximum allowable time. We were saying, like, you can just slog your way through this piece until you hit the time cap and you're good. Hopefully not too many of you did that, but now instead we're kind of zeroing in on what we actually want. We're actually hoping you get for a score, for a time, rounds and reps. If it's an interval, like, hey, we want this each round to take no more than like a minute each or something like that. So we're just zeroing it in a little bit, giving you a better idea of what kind of stimulus we're looking at, so that you can hopefully eventually either, one, scale yourself appropriately, make sure that the Hatchet version is the correct one for you. And then again, the Hatchet program is our kind of feeder system to MFT. So that we've talked at length about it. That's where so many of our athletes started, at that level. And now hopefully you're going to be able to kind of get that stimulus that we're really after. In addition to the workout description, you get that target score.
Right. And one thing that's important about the way that we program is we make sure that the amount of workouts that we do that have a time score versus a work score, that's, we mix things up to the point where, variance helps us, makes us more fit, but also there's that mental aspect if we want things to be different. And we went out on the road and heard from a lot of people that were essentially given an AMRAP with these time caps every single workout. And we would rather have you finish 30 seconds later, 45 seconds later, sometimes 3 or 4 minutes later, if it's a long workout, and learn something from it, than feel like you have to be chopped off in your workout and say, well, that was it. They said I could only go 8 minutes when you could probably have done it in like 8:45.
I really do like the idea of giving that target, though, because now people can kind of see behind the curtain and understand what the thought process is. And I think that's super important, because that's probably the most often asked question is like, how do I decide if I'm going to follow this or follow that? And if you can look at the workout at face value and go, yeah, I think I can get around 2 rounds of that. Hey, good. You're right on path. If you look at that and you're like, well, fuck, I thought that was a half round and people are getting 6. Like, maybe I should scale that further. I think that, we always preach intensity. That's can be the best way to determine whether or not you're on the right path or whether or not you need to consider scaling further.
Yeah, and a lot of those scores that we put in there, times and scores, don't think of them as like, oh, this is the fastest time somebody could possibly get, or this is the longest time we want somebody working. If we're saying if you are 10-20% outside the mark, then maybe you need to reevaluate. But if you're right around that time, like you're getting the point.
To me, it just brings back to like the old school CrossFit.com type of thing where you used to see like Josh Everett and Austin Melio and all those guys had like they'd put their scores up randomly on a workout of the day, and you use that to kind of gauge how you should approach it, or maybe give you something to shoot for. Like a lot of people are looking for training partners to figure out how does it feel, or how should I push, or where should I go. Maybe without a training partner, this gives you the opportunity to go, all right, well, I gotta know where I gotta push, or maybe where I can dig deep so I can get around that score.
That's another thing, peek behind the curtain. You've got these athletes, Brandon Luckett moved away, Alexis moved away. They still have each other as training partners. And quick shout out to Brandon. Brandon trains at night and has Travis's scores and Chandler's scores, and everyone scores, Austin scores, and he beats them every fucking day on almost every training piece. We're talking like 90% plus, but he has that in there, and you guys within the Misfit community can do the exact same thing. Find that little pocket within the Misfit community that's your crew, and compare scores and talk shit and have fun with it, and make sure that each time you go into the gym, if I have an off day here, I'm going to get roasted in the group. Like if I go in and that's probably, you might be doing too much volume, like there's some ways to figure that out. But using the community is something that the best of the best do, even though every Misfit doesn't live in Houston anymore. They've kind of spread out to get there. So that is, kind of take one of explaining these big changes that we're making to our season. There will still be sanctionals prep programming. There's one out right now. There's going to be a new one coming out fairly soon. So if you followed it last year and you had some success but don't want to have Groundhog's Day on, oh, please don't make me do that again. You can go in. There's going to be a new and improved program there. Still a fantastic sanctionals 1, if you want to call it that, is still a fantastic program. We just, again, don't want people to have to follow same program over and over. Variance is kind of the key there. If you're new to Misfit Athletics, you're going to be able to get Misfit WOD for free. You're going to be able to get kind of an idea of like, what is this all about? If you are a Plus member, you're going to be able to go in and see the entire program, the full MFT, the full hatchet. The Pro program, a lot of that is going to be based on trying to personalize that for yourself with our weakness templates. We have an entire library of weakness templates. So if you're looking at the skill and you're looking at the accessory and there's, a little bit too much variance, you really want to hone in on the muscle up or, the handstands, whatever it is, you can go there. Masters programming is on that tier. And then the real bang for your buck is going to be that complete tier where you get your programming in advance.
Yep.
Don't want to make that huge jump to the remote coaching, which obviously we stand by is our best product, but we understand financially that's not always going to be in the cards for people. So that complete tier, that's when you really get the opportunity to start looking at the programming from just a little bit more of a macro view and say, I'm going to pick this one because I know what's coming up Wednesday, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and with this whole the changes to the phases, there's going to be something on the blog every single day. If we didn't, that wasn't kind of clear.
Yes, that's very important.
Like on Thursdays, you'll be able to go onto the blog, see the fasted cardio prescription. It'll be pretty much the same, a slight change every week, but it's going to be there every day. And the reason I bring that up is because if you are in that complete tier, you can see that whole week, which now has basically 2 additional columns with skill work, accessory work, figure out how to piece together your week to know you're maximizing the product.
Yeah, if you're going to do this right, being able to see the whole week is extremely important. There are different ways to get there. There's the complete tier, there's the remote coaching.
Yeah,
but if we're talking about that highest level, we're trying to get elite sanctionals, CrossFit games, either one of those is going to be really important.
Yeah, no professional athlete's going to go in and be like, all right, what's the training for the day? You
exactly.
Get your piece of paper with your notes and stuff. And
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Phase 1. I am beyond excited. You know, we have this, you know, the changes were stressful, but as coaches, we have this like reinvigoration and this sort of reset. I can't wait to see how everyone does with it.
Some nasty stuff in there.
Can't wait.
It's going to be awesome.
I like it.
All right, ladies and gents, that was the Phase 1 Special Edition podcast from Misfit Athletics. Thank you to our show sponsors, PureSpectrumCBD.com. Use the code word Misfit. SharpenTheAxeCo.com. Use the code word Unprepared. Even though this is not the Unprepared podcast, it's still going to work. We got some awesome stuff coming out. We will see you next time.